All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the buildings downtown here. And, I usually don't go too far into all that like esoteric, and because as soon as you start going into downtown territory, it's like in your face. And you can go to any major city in the United States or anywhere probably in the world, honestly, and start seeing these grid lines. Every city is pretty much like a big circuit board, you know, collecting energy, harvesting energy, whatnot. But I'm gonna focus on my hometown here, where my roots are here. And of course, you're gonna see the arch, which is another big portal harvesting of energy. But funny story is that I guess I was in my early 20s. I had moved to Minneapolis. I lived there for a while, went to school, went to the Veda Institute and did massage therapy, and I moved back home. And I always kind of joked, and it was actually, a joke that was kind of long running with a lot of my friends, is like that the arch was like a big magnet. And no matter where we went, we all seemed to kind of end back up here. So now kind of looking back, I really see how when I was referring to the arch as a magnet, that there's a lot of truth to that. So it's something to think about. But this whole city is just full of it. And probably like, I don't know, 10 years ago when I went to Kansas City, it was kind of the same thing. I was seeing pyramids on top of all the downtown structures all throughout. Once you start looking and you have eyes to see, you'll start noticing it in your city. So definitely encourage you to take a peek and where you're at and see what's going on. And you'll definitely catch on to what I'm talking about. So anyway, a lot of this stuff, it's kind of circling back to the esoteric, because as I'm going to show you in this video, a lot of the frequency and how it's all connected to these ancient structures, architecture, symbols, whatnot. So I'll go ahead and get into it. All right, so starting with this Silver Quartz building downtown. The official story is that it was constructed, I think, 1928. Took only 2 years for this massive building to be constructed, which kind of blows my mind, right? You can obviously see all the kind of esoteric symbols, architecture. There's actually 4 eagles, one on each of the corners, right under the pyramid. And then, of course, there's 2 sphinx atop, the very top of the pyramid there, both facing east and west, which I found that kind of striking. And they're actually got the face of a human with a lion body. That type of sphinx is going on. There's 12 of the levels, with the sphinx where it's kind of resting on being the 13th. So I thought that was kind of interesting, it being on the top, with all these like Roman columns throughout. And then it's kind of hard to pick up on this photo, but there's all kinds of like griffins like throughout the whole cubic square, all the perimeter there. So here's a photo of an early construction, Civil Courthouse, February 1st, 1928. So that's massive. And this photo doesn't show too much, but I mean, look how it's towering over all the other structures. There's nothing else like it, right? And then the official, like, Repting News story, the top of the Civil Quartz building in downtown St. Louis has 2 of the sphinxes, which with the fleur de lis on their chest. So that's another big esoteric symbol. That's French for the lily flower. And that goes back to, from my understanding, like Babylonian time, Egyptian time. The fleur-de-lis could even be really an ancient symbol for the toroidal field and the way the whole like electromagnetic energy moves. So that's pretty interesting when I'm kind of looking at, when I'm seeing how all these frequencies are still charging all these ancient structures around us. So another mystery, right? So anyway, continuing on, the pyramid roof is designed to resemble one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, the mausoleum of Mausoleus. I think that's pronounced right. I know he was tied into like the Persian Empire. Modern day Turkey, I believe, is where it's at now. So there's just, you can't even get into the next word of a sentence without like so much of this, I would say, like secret society, old symbols, esoteric meanings on all of our major grids, you know, in our cities, and especially where you're going to see all of the, you know, state capitals or the city buildings, official federal buildings, is that there's this photo that someone, I guess, was allowed to take a drone up there and photograph the arch at one point, and then the Sphinx. And the way it lines up exactly inside the middle of this, you know, huge gateway to the west, they call it, this big portal, kind of blew my mind because I haven't ever seen it from this angle. So it's like another very precisely placed piece of architecture. Let's see, you can see the official story about the architect. Oh, you can see there's the fleur-de-lis right in the middle, there. Apparently the architecture that made just this piece to go atop the pyramid made it full of aluminum. So of course, you know, all metals are conductive of electricity and energy. So let me see if I have that article on him. This guy, Stephen A. Rebick. So he's a guy that is official story in 1930 that did made the top of this pyramid. And of course, it's one of his best known national accomplishments. So here's another picture of the construction going on. But again, I mean, 2 years to build this? Okay. What else we got? You know, just massive. I mean, look at that. And then like you got those eagle guardians there, and then below it you'll see kind of maybe all these gargoyle little heads. They look kind of like dog heads. You know, I have to do more research. This is kind of just a rough draft of what I'm seeing. Okay, so let's go on into looking at this video footage I took about a month ago of downtown St. Louis. And that's the Civil Courts building there to the right there, and then of course the arch. You know, I've seen all this esoteric stuff for, I don't know, probably, I want to say 15 years or so. But it's kind of all tying back in because I've been kind of really looking into this frequency and seeing all these, you know, beyond just like, you know, the regular electricity that we kind of were taught about in school, basically, running through just power lines and such. You know, we know that electricity doesn't just go through power lines, it's existing currents, you know, outside that. So I'm seeing all these grids, these frequency fences, pulses, and let me go ahead and just start playing this so you kind of see what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is actually in a quarter speed, slow down, and you'll see these lines forming, these pulses. And I'm really starting to pay attention to where these frequency lines are actually going to. And I've noticed that like right here, you'll see the pulses, but there's this gap right here, just in these structures, because I would just naturally assume that all these architecture structures are built for harnessing energy, moving energy, And so I'm just kind of analyzing and observing how these frequencies are penetrating these different structures. These frequency fences, that's what I call them, at least for now. But they go way up into the sky. They're not just at, ground level that, our own toroidal system and our energetic field is encased in. And they are pulsing within our system. But for today, just focusing on our environment and how these frequencies are pinning and pinging off of everything around us purposely. Just to kind of observe, more spectrums of light that we don't really see with our eyes. And that's how a lot of things remain hidden from us. We know, a lot of us, how limiting our body can be, these vessels that we are in. And that's why it's good to have a camera or other tools that you find that can help you see into these other spectrums of light. It's more puzzle pieces that we can put together and kind of see what is going on here. At least try to figure it out, to take our power back and bring more awareness to it. These frequencies that are all around us, and we are frequency ourselves. More pulses. And what I find is the pulses are like pretty much like a 1-2 kind of thing. It's constant, consistent. Like that line there, that gap. And a side note too, people always wonder about why the trees are always dying off. Well, when you start looking at the spectrum, you see why. There's a big possibility that these plants, everything is absorbing energy around us, including us. I find that when I take meters readings, sometimes I spike the meter. And I thought maybe it was just because I'm getting close to the sensor, but I don't think it's quite just that. I think we are absorbing this frequency within our own tissue and within our own field, basically. But you see how the frequency goes all the way top. The Sphinx, it's covering all of these, I'll call them esoteric relics. There's a whole bunch of weird stuff too that I won't focus on, but I see kind of within little orby beings like flying in and out of plasma lights all around us. We live in a very scientific, we live in a very sci-fi world, and that's a fact. Our world is more supernatural than just basically natural. Yeah, so I'm gonna just continue on piecing things together and share it, what I come across, because I do that is my intention to share, information. And because I do believe we all have different puzzle pieces, and of course if we can work together as a community and talk about these things, that would I think help us kind of progress further along here. Maybe help some of us remember, and that's a whole other chapter. But these frequency grid lines, when I first kind of started seeing them last December, a year now, it actually did trigger a lot of like past life memories of working with the grid and helping other people get out of the grid, these frequency fences, it's really weird. But hopefully in time, as I kind of progress through this, I feel like honestly this is not the first time I'm talking about frequency and grid lines. I feel like it feels familiar from past lives, so that's kind of a whole other side thing, but it's familiar to me in a very deep way, and almost brings up just feelings of I don't even know how to put it into words quite yet, but at some point I will. But yeah, there, look at that. I mean, this, I don't even know how high up that is in the sky, but look at all these frequencies and grid patterns. Like, I don't know, I call them like frequency fences, circuit boards. It's very much alive. The ether is alive. So when I think of Tartaria, I don't even know if that's ever like went away because our atmosphere is completely charged. And looking into all this, it really makes me understand why some people are more targeted than others, because a lot of this is my own feelings and truth, is we've been here before. A lot of us are warriors from before and had our memories wiped. And so some of us have been targeted since we got in here and in the womb. So this is something that I'll just continue to share, you know, my thoughts on it. You know, I definitely appreciate anybody else, you know, sharing their input on it too, because it's pretty crazy realm that we're all in. And you know what? It's better that we have awareness of what we're dealing with, what we're working with, and stepping back into our power and harnessing our power instead of others harnessing it from us. So that's how I see it. And I'll continue to, you know, share my thoughts on this and share what I find, because I am really, I think I'm onto something with this, and I'm all about that. I'm all about us remembering and being empowered. So anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you found something in here that resonates. But until then, take care, everybody. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.